Today, President Biden moving ahead with his plan to tax the rich. It's to pay for his multi-trillion-dollar spending proposal. Schools around the country are facing a bus driver shortage. One state is even deploying the National Guard to take children to school. And SpaceX makes history launching the first all-civilian crew ever. We have the highlights and hear from a space expert on why it's significant. That and much more coming up on NTD Business. Good evening. Great to have you with us. I'm Paul Graney. President Biden today laying out his proposal to get the wealthy to, quote, pay their fair share in taxes. He's trying to raise taxes on the rich to fund his far-reaching multi-trillion-dollar spending plan.
Big corporations and the super wealthy have to start paying their fair share of taxes. It's long overdue. I'm not out to punish anyone. I'm a capitalist. If you can make $1 million or $1 billion, that's great. God bless you. All I'm asking is you pay your fair share.
Biden says the top 1% evade $160 billion in taxes every year, citing Treasury Department numbers. The top 1% give over $600 billion in taxes in 2018, according to the Tax Foundation. They also paid a greater share of income taxes than the bottom 90% combined. Biden's waiting for Congress to pass his $3.5 trillion spending plan, which would vastly expand social welfare. Democrats this week proposing raising the tax rate on big corporations and wealthy individuals to pay for the bill. And retailers sold more than expected in August. New data from the Commerce Department showing back-to-school shopping season and so-called free money from the government in the form of child tax credits likely provided a boost. Sales were up 0.7%, but July's numbers were revised down. Online and furniture purchases made up for less cars sold. Grocery stores also did quite well, but sales at restaurants and bars were flat. Data last month showing people canceled bookings as the Delta variant spread. So it seems like Americans' willingness to spend money hasn't been impacted much, although inflation likely plays a part in the increase. NTD's Evelyn Lee spoke with a retail expert and analyst to find out more.
Retail sales rose this month, and that's despite the Delta variant and supply chain disruptions. Joining us now is Sharon Martis. She is the Consumer Research Director at Refinitiv to discuss these numbers. It's great to have you, Sharon.
It's good to be here.
So, are you surprised by these numbers?
Well, definitely surprised by the August retail sales numbers that came in much stronger than expected. It's also important to know that July, on the opposite, they saw a revision going down. Still, the biggest improvement from the previous month is the fact that consumers went online to purchase most of their goods that they needed instead of going into the store. So they're still preferring to shop online versus in person.
Okay, so with demand up and some congestions in the supply chain and also labor shortage, are retailers facing challenges now?
Retailers are definitely facing some challenges for supply. However, the big names, the big retailers like Walmart and Target have already told us, that they've been working with their supply chain managers, in order to facilitate and make sure there's enough supply for items for the Halloween and also the holiday season which is coming up. So we're seeing that the big corporations are doing a better job in mitigating these supply issues, whereas the small businesses are going to be the ones that are going to have a more selective selection going into the holiday season.
So what does that mean for the next couple of months, especially with, what you just mentioned with the holiday season and holiday shopping coming up?
The latest retail earnings numbers told us that the consumer is looking forward to the holiday season. Even back in the beginning of August, they were already searching for items related to Halloween because they want to celebrate and they want to purchase these items. A lot of them also flew off the shelves and, were sold out very fast in the beginning of the month of August. So consumers do want to celebrate the holiday season despite the pandemic happening if it continues this year. It is just the fact that the retailers are trying to provide the right supply for the strong demand that we're seeing in consumer spending.
All right. So are you seeing any other interesting trends right now?
So it's definitely evident that the Delta variant is triggering a shift in consumer shopping behavior and also in the consumer sentiment. The latest reading on consumer sentiment from Refinitiv definitely shows an improvement, which is in line with what we saw with the retail sales numbers. But when you look at where the consumer is spending, they still have the pandemic very much in their mind. They're preparing for the fact that this might continue into 2022. They are purchasing items that they believe will improve the stay-at-home experience. They are also still continuing to gravitate to shop online as opposed to going into the stores. So we're seeing that the pandemic is not over and it's still having an impact on consumer spending, especially given the fact that also they're continuing to purchase groceries to make food at home as opposed to going out and being in person, eating at a restaurant.
All right, very interesting insights as always, Sharon. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And joining us now is one of America's smaller retailers. We have Phil Skaggs, the CEO of Right Rope. It's a rope distributor in Michigan. Phil, pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks very much for coming on.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
I think what's really interesting about your product is that it's used for a number of different purposes. We have arts and crafts, we have home and garden, even for outdoor activities like boating. So looking at your sales or maybe speaking to your customers, what do you think people are spending their money on right now?
Seems like they're spending their money on everything. Basically all categories are doing really well. During the pandemic, seems like things really took a turn towards the indoor things, but as we're coming out, moving more towards outdoors, and we saw rope in the boating category and many other outdoor activities, those all seem to be doing really well. So,
is the excess demand or the increased demand, is it putting any challenges in you guys? You facing any challenges?
The biggest challenges that we face is the supply chain. With all of this added demand, pressure on delivery services and ocean freight, all of these things, we're seeing further and further delays, and it's been really difficult to get product. And similar to the toilet paper catastrophe at the grocery store, when people think that they're not going to be able to get it, they order more. And so that puts even further demand on the supply chain. And so we've seen really long delays, and that has been a big challenge that we're working to overcome. But so far, we've been able to keep up. So,
is it going to hurt you guys from a sales or revenue perspective?
It seems like we have been prepared enough to where that is not the case, and we have seen steady growth throughout 2020 and into 2021. We're still continuing to see growth, and so far we are able to keep up, and we're hanging on.
When you speak to your distributors, are they warning of any potential shortages coming up or anything? There seem to be some shortages of particular products, but mostly it's about the lead time. That's the biggest struggle that we're seeing is the extended lead times, and then pricing, of course, has also gone up pretty sharply. Most of our distributors are somewhere in the neighborhood of 10% is about the increase in prices that we've seen. We've been able to pass some of that onto the customer. We try to take care of some of that so as to not make pricing too unstable, but mostly it's just lead times and pricing has gone up. So far, it seems as though consumers are willing to pay, and demand keeps coming in. Phil Skaggs, Right Rope. And despite strong retail sales, more Americans filed for unemployment last week than the week before. The Labor Department says over 330,000 workers filed jobless claims for the week. That's 20,000 more than the previous week, which was the lowest figure since March of last year. And the high reading comes despite a record high number of job openings. Some government aid programs ended on Labor Day, and many are waiting to see if that will lead to more hiring. Despite many economists arguing that the attractive unemployment benefits are discouraging people from going back to work, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to extend them. She plans to introduce a bill that would make them available till February of next year. You'd also get paid for the weeks between Labor Day, when they expired, and the date they're reintroduced. The extra benefits have been blamed for discouraging people from going back to work, as more people made more from the benefits than from working. Others say they didn't really make much of a difference, though. AOC says she isn't sure it's going to pass, but she's going to try anyway. But with or without enhanced benefits, schools across the country are facing a bus driver shortage. The state of Massachusetts is deploying their National Guard now to help children take children to schools across several cities there. NTD's Phil Zoe spoke to people in the industry to find out what's behind it and what they think might help.
America, we have a problem. The wheels on the bus are not going round and round, at least for many students across the U.S. That's because we are short on bus drivers. Nationwide, there's about a 15 to 20% shortage of school bus drivers.
There's a myriad of problems going on right now. It could take anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks to become a school bus driver, whether it's the drug testing, the background testing, the fingerprinting. People that want to work right now are not waiting 6 to 12 weeks to get put on a job. They can't afford to.
Another problem is many bus drivers are older and have health concerns.
They're more susceptible to the COVID-19 virus, and they're afraid. We have had a mass exodus of retirees.
But for those willing to work, now's the time to make some money. The Georgia Driving Academy, which has graduated over 1,000 school bus drivers, says new drivers are getting bonuses up to $2,500. So why are school bus drivers so important?
Folks have to be mindful that the yellow bus is the safest manner to transport children to and from school.
Over at yellowbuses.org, the National School Transportation Association represents over 100,000 private school buses.
The average student is 70 times more likely to make it to school safely on a yellow bus than he or she is in a passenger vehicle, whether it's a parent driving them or another student.
Mackison says many bus drivers are putting in extra hours, going above and beyond.
These folks, we say they bleed yellow, and it just shows that they're really committed to their position.
He expects the number of bus drivers to remain low for the rest of the school year. Not much hope for the short term. But one item they are fighting for is the school bus only license. If approved, it's easier to get than your standard commercial driver's license. So hopefully, more bus drivers can apply. Phil Zoe, NTD News, New York.
And Amazon founder Jeff Bezos is among those congratulating Elon Musk today. It's after yesterday's successful SpaceX rocket launch. For the first time ever, it launched an all-civilian crew into space, into an orbit even higher than that of the International Space Station. The crew will now remain there for 3 days to conduct experiments. NTD's Colin Fredrickson shows us how it happened.
SpaceX has launched 4 civilians into space, the first time this has ever happened. The 4 include billionaire Jared Isaacman, founder of payments processing company Shift for Payments, Inc., geoscientist Cyan Proctor, physician assistant Haley Arsenault, and Air Force veteran Chris Sombrosky. Earlier in the day, the 4 civilians emerged from a hangar in Cape Canaveral, got into their custom Teslas, and traveled to the launch site. After taking a group picture, they ascended the launch tower, walked through numerous hallways, and signed their names on a wall, before finally being escorted into the capsule, where they made themselves cozy. Liftoff took place just after 8 p.m. Wednesday.
Ignition. And liftoff. Perfect use. Go Dragon. Go Falcon. Godspeed Inspiration 4. Copy 1 Alpha.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
We're now one step closer to making low Earth orbit accessible to pretty much anyone. Now SpaceX is at a point where they can do these pretty complex launches. They make it look easy.
Space expert Brandon Weichert is the author of Winning Space: How America Remains a Superpower. He says we're going to see a massive influx of investment and interest in space, including space tourism.
What SpaceX just did by launching these individuals, civilians, into orbit on a private rocket, I think they just proved to the world that the new dawn of space travel is here, and SpaceX, not Boeing or Blue Origin or whoever, it's SpaceX that's leading the way.
Crowds cheered as the shuttle made its way higher and higher in the sky. The first stage of the multi-stage rocket separated about 3 minutes in.
Stage separation confirmed.
And after 12 minutes, the booster separated from the capsule to begin its descent into the Atlantic Ocean. Once in space, the crew tweeted this video showing the view. They're going to remain there for 3 days, where they will be conducting experiments to see how people respond to gravity. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
And photo sharing app Instagram wants users to focus less on their physical appearance. It's after a report that Facebook knows the platform is toxic for teen girls. Facebook bought Instagram in 2012. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that for 3 years, Facebook researchers have been studying how Instagram affects young users. The research found the app can damage mental health and body image, especially among teen girls. Instagram says it's working on ways to discourage users from comparing themselves with others in ways that could be harmful. One possibility is prompting users to look at different kinds of content instead of looking at one type for too long. The Journal is also accusing Facebook of playing favorites when it comes to enforcing its rules and policies. It says Facebook gives millions of high-profile users special treatment. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
Crosscheck is a Facebook program that protects high-profile users from enforcement of the company's rules and policies. Crosscheck was originally meant to be a quality control system to retain popular accounts that attract users to Facebook and maintain advertising revenue.
The question is, how much were they concerned that one of these famous people could be upset because their content was taken down and then decide they don't want to use the platform anymore and take their potentially millions of followers away to somewhere else?
But there have been unintended consequences. As of 2020, the program exempts 5.8 million users from Facebook's enforcement practices, causing controversy over content moderation, censorship, and free speech. Facebook has prohibited some high-profile users from using the platform, most notably former President Donald Trump, while allowing others to violate rules and policies.
We already know that celebrities, politicians, athletes have an outsized voice when it comes to traditional media. What we're seeing now with Facebook, included in that Instagram, is that they're allowing them to basically say things that we cannot. And creating that kind of two-tier free speech system should be pretty concerning for all of us.
While content moderation is necessary, this double standard of enforcement has led to important information being flagged as false and taken down. Information that has ultimately ended up being likely or true, such as the Wuhan lab leak theory.
Social media is the arbiters of truth, and they're getting to decide what people know, what people learn, and they're putting their thumb on the scale of certain issues. And this should be, again, particularly concerning when we've also now seen that celebrities don't get that same treatment.
Practices such as crosscheck will continue to fuel debate about content moderation and social media's role as a platform for free speech. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
And on Wall Street, stocks ended mixed today. The Dow falling 63 points or 0.2%. S&P 500 also falling 7 points or 0.2%. And Nasdaq, though, today rising 20 points, about 0.1%. An energy giant Chevron plans to move away from fossil fuels. It says it will spend $10 billion through 2028 on low-carbon energy sources like renewable diesel fuel and hydrogen. That's 3 times more than its initial pledge. But one analyst says even with investment of $10 billion over 7 years, Chevron is still behind the curve. Bank of America is telling its clients Chevron's green scale is still well below its European peers. World governments are putting pressure on private companies to decarbonize. 3 Democrats in the House have introduced a bill to force the Federal Reserve to break up banks if they don't shift funding away from fossil fuel. One of the world's biggest fertilizer makers has had to shut down 2 plants in the United Kingdom because of high natural gas prices. CF Industries says it doesn't have an estimate on when production will resume at the facilities. Ammonia, produced from natural gas, is a basic ingredient for making one type of fertilizer. Natural gas prices are rising at their highest rate in years, more than doubling since January of this year. And 4 former executives of car maker Volkswagen go on trial today over the company's emission cheating scandal. But the company's former CEO wasn't among them. His trial's at a later date. NTD's Fake Quarter has the details.
4 former executives of German car maker Volkswagen went on trial Thursday over their role in the firm's emissions cheating scandal. The case is being heard in a town near VW's headquarters. Prosecutors say the four knew of the illegal software used to cheat emissions tests, but did nothing to address the issue. Instead, they allegedly sought to maximize profits for the company and, as a result, their own performance bonuses. All four are charged with fraud. The defendants either deny knowledge of the cheating or say they informed superiors about it. Former CEO Martin Winterkorn isn't one of the defendants. His trial will take place at a later date. VW admitted cheating on U.S. tests in 2015, sparking the biggest crisis in its history. So far, the scandal has cost it almost $38 billion in vehicle refits, fines, and legal costs. Faye Quarter, NTD News.
We'll keep you updated on the story. Still to come this evening. Soon you can log into your Microsoft account by just scanning your face or fingerprint instead of typing your password. And Russians turn their sights to domestic travel, including a luxury camping destination inspired by Kazakhstan. Find out why visitors keep coming back. That and more coming up at NTD Business.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you can get my premium MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
What does it mean to devote your life to the truth? Does it mean investigating communist subversion here in America? Does it mean exposing the deadly fentanyl crisis in the Midwest? Or spending late nights and covering deep government corruption? Does it mean persevering over 20 years, even after four masked men set one of our printing presses on fire last year? Because at a time when America's traditional values are under attack, it's the responsibility of righteous journalists to uphold truth and tradition.
Welcome back. Microsoft is letting users ditch their passwords. It announced in a blog post it will give users other ways to access their accounts. You can download the Microsoft Authenticator app to your smartphone, use a security key, a verification code, or an email address. Another option is Windows Hello. It scans your face, eye, or fingerprint. The blog says these options solve the password problem for users. You won't have to come up with or remember new passwords that are secure enough against hackers. Microsoft says the new options will be rolled out over the coming weeks. And during the Crusades, knights in southern France left behind a vineyard, and it's still being cultivated today. Winemakers at the vineyard are keeping the tradition alive, and they continue to make one of the tastiest red wines in the country. NTD's David Vivez has the story.
Positioned between a mountain range and the Mediterranean Sea, this vineyard in southern France stretches miles. It produces a famed red wine, the Banyuls. The history of the beverage began 700 years ago on these hills. The Knight Templar that led the crusade in the Middle Ages chose this region to grow and reap their liquor. This long-living custom still exists thanks to a group of wine producers who created the brand Terre des Templiers, or Lands of the Templars. Clément Faux is one of the managers that welcomed us.
Our grape variety is the Grenache. There is the white one, the gray one, and here our signature variety, the black one.
This is a 100-year-old grapevine tree. Just like other plants, its roots are several dozen feet long, because they have to search for minerals and nutrients.
This is very poor soil made of stone, only 10 centimeters of earth. The rest is stone, but it is very good soil for this specific variety of Grenache, surprisingly.
To cultivate the vines, the winemakers apply an ingenious method used by the medieval knight. The Templars were called the sculpture of mountains. That's because they created these terraces. They've used cutted stones to create walls in order to let the water circulate through the vineyard. The grape harvest, which ended a week ago, followed a year of work on the vine trees. The color and the taste of the wines reflect the weather when the grapes grew. The sun in southern France usually gives the grapes a very sweet taste. The wine is then stored for about 8 years in these huge barrels.
These are our 2-centuries-old ladies made with old oak. We leave some air in the barrels so there's an exchange between the wine and the air. The wine then becomes clearer. The robe of the wine has these amber reflects.
3 million bottles of wine are sold from this cave each year. Due to its poor soil, this vineyard only produces around 1/3 of what an average vineyard in France produces. But the quality of the banyuls has made them famous. It is also said in the region that local pirates discovered another maturation process, leaving the wines in bottles and exposing them to the sun for days. But that's another story. David Vives, NTD News.
And with current travel restrictions, domestic tourism is a convenient option for many vacationers. In Russia, a comfortable glamping trend is on the rise. NTD's Andrew Thomas brings us there.
In Russia, a few hours east of Moscow, a camping site with comfortable tents awaits tourists. The owners made it look like a traditional settlement in Kazakhstan.
I and my business partner are from Kazakhstan. We went through it, and you can never take Kazakhstan out of our heart.
It has its own backyard with cows, goats, sheep, pigs, and more. Here, visitors can relax and also get to know more about Kazakh culture and lifestyle. The Shumilov family came here for the weekend, looking to spend time closer to nature while enjoying comfortable facilities.
We are with a child, so we need some facilities, and here they are available. It's great that such a place for rest is organized. It's like living in a tent by the river, but it's a package with that.
Guests can enjoy Kazakh food, a Kazakh sauna, and a swimming pool, but one of the owners doesn't like to describe it as glamping.
This is hard work, both in agriculture and tourism. You need to be able to understand the guests, be able to please him so that he leaves this place happy. Well, people call it glamping, so let it be, even though for us it's just work.
A camping night is comparable to the cost of a budget hotel. Prices range from $27 to $40 depending on the range of services provided. The Russian Federal Tourism Agency expects domestic tourism to return to pre-crisis levels by the end of 2021. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
That's the latest business updates for today, but you can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox. That's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.